What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Florida Panthers is in the Stanley Cup final, third year in a row. We did it, boys. Now amazing 2 weeks of hockey are coming. It's either gonna be a rematch with Edmonton Oilers or a new opponent, Dallas Stars, but doesn't matter because let's go Panthers. Let's go. But now let's talk about the main topic of the video. So yeah, there are betrayals that sting, and then there are betrayals that rattle entire alliances. Russia just accused its supposedly loyal Slavic sibling, Serbia, of selling arms to Ukraine. Yes, you read it right, you heard it right. Moscow's complaining is not because Serbia did something unexpected. This has been going on for over a year. But because now it feels like a good time to publicly cry about it. Maybe because of the ongoing humiliation Russia's enduring on the battlefield. Maybe because Putin needs a fresh scapegoat to distract from Trump's tightening ultimatums and failed negotiations. Or maybe it is because the myth of the Slavic Brotherhood is finally shattering under the weight of missiles, hypocrisy and money. So today, let's talk about this multi-country mess where traditional alliances are disintegrating, Trump is handing out deadlines, and Russia is piecing together buffer zones like they are some kind of, Lego sets built on ruins. So, Putin wakes up and chooses drama. As soon as one story is over, he immediately chooses to start a new one. Same old Putin. On a random Thursday, the Служба of Внешней разведки, or Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service SVR, decides it's time to unleash some righteous fury at Serbia. What's the crime? Selling Soviet-era ammunition to Ukraine. According to Moscow, this is a stab in the back from a fraternal ally. But here's the twist. This has been public knowledge since early 2023. Leaks, reports, media chatter, nothing about this is new, but Russia had kept it suspiciously quiet. Until now. The main question is obviously, why? The timing of the SVR's public tantrum is not accidental. The battlefield situation is worsening. Putin humiliated himself at least twice, trying to be the good guy offering peace. And Russia simply needs a narrative change. Serbia, led by the ever-sleepy Alexander Vucic, is playing a very suspicious double game. He flirts with Brussels, dreams of European accession, and at the same time cozies up with Putin at Moscow's May 9th Victory Day parade. That image, Vucic grinning beside Putin while the latter bombs Kiev, sets off alarms in Brussels, obviously. The European Union warned that his actions were sabotaging Serbia's European future. Vucic responded with the usual tap dance. Traditions, shared religion, friendship, blah blah blah, all this Slavic common everything basically. And yet behind this theatrical loyalty, Serbia's arms industry quietly made its choice. Soviet caliber shells? Well, Ukraine needs them, and Serbia, in desperate need of economic stimulation, is very happy to profit. Moscow claims the exports are disguised using fake end-user certificates and rerouted through third-party countries. It is a textbook grey market maneuver, and everybody already knows it. Russia's outrage now? Why? It reeks of desperation, to be honest, not that much of a betrayal as they claim. It is also revealing how little actual leverage Russia has left. Remember, this is the same country that used to hold entire Balkan nations in a tight grip through energy blackmail, military intimidation, and constant political meddling. Now it is reduced to issuing press releases and calling its former friends traitors in public statements. The threat had been downgraded to whining, literally. It is hard to project strength when you are this transparent about feeling helpless. And what about Serbia? Vucic is not exactly panicking. There was no fiery rebuttal, no angry statement, not even a weak denial. Just complete silence. Because silence speaks volumes, it is very loud, to be honest, in some cases, when especially you're trying to keep both Washington and Moscow at arm's length, while selling ammunition to the war zone that both sides obsess over. In fact, his non-response might be the most calculated move of them all. Was it on purpose or unintentional? Only Vucic knows. But even if Serbia can now play around with Putin, the leverage of the dictator over smaller countries is getting smaller and smaller, let alone countries like the United States of America. And speaking about it, Trump also gave Putin a 2-week deadline yesterday. Let's talk about it right now. While Russia throws a tantrum at Serbia, Donald Trump is trying to get serious with Putin. And not in the passive-aggressive way, like Cold War style. No, Trump is counting days out loud. When asked in the Oval Office about Putin's intentions, Trump casually replied, "I will let you know, guys, in about 2 weeks." Translation, what does it mean? Vladimir Vladimirovich, you have 2 weeks to give me something. At least something, or else.
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But
this was not just a throwaway comment. Trump's tone has shifted from hopeful mediator to visibly pissed off dealmaker. Over the last few days, he has unloaded on Putin through social media posts, calling him absolutely crazy and accusing him of playing with fire.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people.
These are not just insults, they are warnings. Behind the scenes, frustration is boiling. Negotiations feel like a broken record. Putin promises peace and then drops 100 drones on Kiev. And Trump is not kind of person to patiently wait. If anything, he has a very short fuse and is not afraid to speak before he thinks. A week before one of the deadliest Russian bombardments in months, Trump and Putin had a phone call, and Trump said it went very well. Putin unsurprisingly spoke of drafting a so-called memorandum, and well, so what? Fast forward to now, no memo, no progress, just more blood. So Trump's 2-week warning is not just bluster, it is a deadline for real action. If Putin keeps dragging his feet, Trump implies the American stance will change. Though Washington has not made a single new demand of Russia since Trump took office, the tide is visibly turning. One of the first mistakes was when Trump paused US military support to Kyiv for 8 days in March, because he hoped this leverage would move the Kremlin towards peace. But instead Russia saw it as a weakness and logically escalated. Well, no more such handouts, that's for sure. Trump's critics will say he is posturing, but even posturing has consequences when the White House keeps pivoting its strategy. From hard ceasefire lines to casual ultimatums, the administration is now in the reactive stance. The delays, the promises, the inconsistent red lines, all of it adds to a boiling frustration that even Trump cannot fully mask anymore. And so now we are watching him play a dangerous waiting game. If Putin continues stalling and intensifying the war, Trump will have to decide between bluffing again or escalating in ways that could spiral out of control. And either path is, as you guys can see, is very risky. And yet the president seems to believe that the bluff has value as long as someone believes it, at least for now. Let's now briefly switch our attention to the front lines, because Russia, according to Putin, according to Ministry of Defense, and then according to Putin once again, is creating some sort of a buffer zone only known to Russia, Putin, Ministry of Defense, and then once again only Putin himself. Now enter the third act, Putin's dreams of security buffer zone. Let's be clear, this is not a new idea. He has been toying with it since at least March, but on Thursday he declared it official. The Russian army is actively building a fortified strip along the border, meant to keep Ukrainian forces at bay. He says it is to suppress enemy fighting positions, which basically means it is just a fantasy built on craters. The timing of this grand announcement is also deliciously, I guess, suspicious. It came right before a planned prisoner swap in Turkey, the first tangible result of 3 years of frozen diplomacy. Russia and Ukraine already exchanged around 1,000 captives each, and well, that is at least some good news, right? What is the bad news then? Well, Putin still believes building trenches in Kursk region is a meaningful war strategy for 2025. Meanwhile, civilians in towns like Lvov are getting pounded. The attacks already injured 12 people, including 2 children, and yet Putin insists he is not the aggressor. He says the goal is to restore destroyed border towns and help civilians return. I mean, with what? Shattered infrastructure, landmines that they don't even know where they planted. It's hard to achieve this knowing the reality, right? One more thing, by the way. Putin recently visited Kursk and asked officials how deep the buffer zone should be. And yeah, that's right, he is talking battlefield strategy like it is some kind of form of a late-night brainstorm. sometimes with the Ministry of Defense representatives, sometimes with some random officials from neighboring regions. Only Putin basically knows what's up. But while he fantasizes about protective perimeters, Ukraine is still pushing into Russian-held territories and using border advances as a negotiation chip. Putin's buffer zone is not a strategic marvel, it is a delusion dressed as policy. And yet, he is investing everything into it. Meeting with mayors, restoration plans, infrastructure projects to rebuild what was destroyed, as if new pipes, roads and, gardens, grasses, flowers, will convince displaced villagers to return to war-torn ruins. But again, this is not about rebuilding, it's about controlling the narrative. Putin wants to present himself to the domestic audience as a protector, not as a destroyer. He wants mothers to believe he is shielding them from the Ukrainian attacks, not provoking them. But it gets harder and harder for parents of lost soldiers to believe what Putin says right now, because they know the truth in its unfortunate, most bitter flavor. Remember the Istanbul peace talks? Those few faint rays of hope that maybe, just maybe, this catastrophe could be posed. Well, Zelensky says Russia promised to submit peace terms. Then Peskov claims that the draft is in its final stages. But it is just the same old playbook. Drag the process out, shift blame, stall for time, and so on. Putin and Lavrov are piling on demands, and not only does Ukraine need to recognize Crimea as Russian territory, but they are now expecting to surrender land that Russia has not even captured. This is not negotiation, it is a hostage diplomacy. According to Michael McFaul, it is a poison pill tactic. Terms so toxic that no sane Ukrainian leader could ever accept them. So what's the Russia's real goal then? Make Ukraine look like the one preventing the peace from happening, and then feed Trump's administration the narrative that Zelensky is dragging his feet, while Moscow pretends to be the only one reasonable. The truth is that Putin's demands keep escalating precisely because he is not ready for peace, he is ready for destruction. That's where Serbia comes in, that's where buffer zones and phony deadlines come in. Anything to keep the spotlight off the failure to conquer Ukraine and the growing internal unrest. And so the violence continues, Russia escalates, Kiev resists, and Trump watches his clock. Berlin, by the way, is now stepping in with a pledge to help Ukraine manufacture long-range missiles. The Kremlin warned that this would harm any peace talks. Of course it would. Because peace talks are just props to Putin, useful only when they stall Western momentum or justify internal crackdowns. It also explains why Russia clings to the prisoner exchange narrative so tightly. It is because literally one of the very few storylines they can spin as progress. 1,000 people returning to their families, it for sure sounds noble. But in reality, it is a desperate move to claim humanitarian credit amid scorched earth tactics. So much has been promised, so many deals presented and broken before they could be even signed. And so unfortunately, we found ourselves exactly where we have been years ago. The war feels like it's near its end, yet it is so far away. And every day it feels like we need bigger and bigger miracle to make it all stop. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, and later I will reveal why I'm not shaving my beard. So, yes, subscribe if you don't mind. If you want to support my work, there are links down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe